Profesora Emeritus 5.
So howdy y'all. It is 5 o'clock and we're going to start our meeting. First of all, can we have confirmation of a quorum?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. It is time for the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. Could all stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
By the way, I learned this during jury duty. You don't cover your heart when you pledge allegiance to the Texas flag. You just hold your hand up. So, for anybody who didn't know that. Okay, so moving on to the next item. Do we have a workshop or public hearings? No. Okay, so do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay. Well. Okay, moving on from that, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Y'all would have had them in your packet. So do we have any questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to pull number 7.
Pull number 7, the consideration and possible action to approve reimbursement to the city of Brownsville for the utility improvements as part of the street paving and drainage improvements for Old Highway 77 CIP 2022-07 project. Got it. Okay, we'll pull that.
Good afternoon. My name is Ricky Pineda. I'm the Water and Wastewater Project Development Manager. Are there any questions regarding Old Highway 77 before we read the recommendation?
Do we have to, is that the order of things?
Typically, it would be the consent agenda is considered absent the item pulled,
Okay, so we
and
got it.
then item G2 would be consideration and action on items pulled out of consent. So it may be.
So you got to give us about 5 minutes and then we'll come to it.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
So I'll make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 6 and move 7 to section G. G2.
I second that motion.
Sounds great. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, now moving on to our items for individual consideration. We'll start with the general manager's report.
Hello, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. On your calendar, if you go to section number 2, you have the board calendar. One of the things I do want to bring up is that for the November meeting, we do have a holiday on November the 11th, which is the regular scheduled meeting. And my understanding is some of you have been called to potential consideration to November the 14th. Are there any discussions at this time if that date is okay with you to hold it at 5 p.m. or if we should do that, or you can notify us and then we can pull another date on there.
Anybody have problems with the 14th? Or for right now?
Okay.
I think as of right now, that's good.
We will update the website accordingly to just note that change, and so we'll let our communications and PR department know, so that way everybody and members of the public who want to attend, instead of showing up on the holiday here at PEB, holiday will be closed on November the 11th. We had an SRWA board meeting today, and we will have a PubCap meeting on September the 18th. And so we also have on October the 7th an SRWA board meeting, and then the regular board meeting for October the 14th. Other events are posted on here. I'm not going to go through all the various different things that I have on the agenda, but I do want to jump, if it's okay with you, to the general manager's industry report, unless you want to go back to the calendar of anything, questions.
I think we're good.
Okay. So on the industry updates inside of your package, you have the report that we submitted to the Testimony on Senate Agriculture, Water, and Rural Affairs Committee interim legislative charge on the water system reliability. You'll be hearing a presentation from staff on drought. And so in there, if I'm not going to go into all the details, but that gives you a little bit of a histories on various different things on there. And that was submitted written testimony in your packet. I also attended the...
I just want to jump in and say, Mark,
ahead.
thank you for doing us proud on that. It was well written.
Thank you for that. The next item we have is we had the, on the industry updates, is we had the Rio Grande Valley Regional Water Planning Group meeting that was held on August the 7th. And I attended that meeting. I'm a Region M board member, and we have been discussing diligently the drought conditions that we have here. I know outside it's raining. I mean, they don't consider it that we're in a drought, but that is only for localized. We have received a little bit of water, and more information will be coming next on there. With that in mind, I want to thank the mayor for his meeting that he held with us with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation on August the 13th. Thank you so much for setting that up. We had one of the commissioners attend at SRWA, and we discussed the potential expansion of the desalination plant as well as the potable water reuse for potential funding that may be coming there. So in that, we also had some information on where the staff is working on some closeout of the Texas Water Development Board project number 10344 for the sanitary sewer improvements. And so we're working closely on seeing if there's any other eligibility of funds coming back to utility for reimbursement on that. And then I also have here that we did submit to the Public Utility Commission, and that was for the post-Berry request for information. And all of the utilities were asked that were potentially affected on Beryl. And so the commission will also be holding commission-led workshop on Saturday, October the 5th. And that is, to go over best practices of storm-related preparedness and response. So that's going to be in Harris County primarily, although the impacts were in Harris County. Brownsville Public Utilities Board was in the zone of impact. So we were also submitted on the request for information from the Public Utilities Board, and all information requested has been submitted. And at this point, we also had some other staff members attending events and committee meetings, and if there's any other questions on industry updates or anything you'd like to see in the future.
I think we're all good.
Okay, and that concludes the general manager's report, and we're able to move on to the next item.
Okay, next item. Now we're at consideration and action on items pulled out of consent.
Correct. So this would be consideration and possible action on Brownsville Public Utilities Board, general liability, automotive, cyber, mobile.
No, it's number
Seven.
seven.
Number 7, I'm sorry. Consideration and possible action to approve reimbursement to the city of Brownsville for utility improvements as part of the street paving and drainage improvements for Old Highway 77 CIP 2022-07 project.
Howdy again.
Okay, so again, my name is Ricky Pineda, the project Water and Wastewater Project Development Manager. I'll be presenting this item for Marie Leon. So are there any questions regarding the project before we read the recommendation?
I had one, I just wanted to pull it out. I think it's a pretty significant financial commitment. Not that I'm against it, but just so the board can kind of evaluate.
Mhm.
And then I did look, because they were provided all the numbers,
Yes.
right, to compare between the two submissions, and just noticed there was a lot of big differences on certain items,
Okay.
right? It wasn't like, okay, 10,000, 12,000, it was like 10,000, 90,000, on some items, so it just seems a little Not concerning, but it was just caught my eye. I don't know if there's any general comments. I mean, I'm not going to question anything specifically, but I assume that there's some, something comparable should be submitted, I would say, because the items are pretty well described, right? So
Correct.
even though the totals is clear, who's lower, just wanted to make sure that we feel comfortable given some of those pretty large discrepancies or differences.
Right, so it's the opinion of the consultant that these prices are fair. There is a difference in 2 million between one contractor 1 and contractor 2. It might be that honestly, I don't know why it was $2 million higher, but according to the engineer, these are reasonable prices, and Mako is a reputable contractor.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, I would say, just a general concern, right? I would imagine that some of these, even our team should be able to kind of price mentally. But yeah, I did read the consultant recommendation, obviously at the end. So you don't have any concerns?
No, you do not, no.
From the project management, Mark, do we measure, like, how do we come in within the anticipated project cost? Are there some metrics around that maybe later we can see?
Well, we do measure the cost against the budget for each of these projects. They have to be delivered according to what the board approves in their estimate. If there's any overages, we have to manage those during the project.
Yeah.
This project is being managed by the city as a part of its highway improvement. So
Right.
this is a component of the work that they're doing.
I didn't see an engineer's estimate on this item. I can certainly provide it, so that way you can see what the engineer's estimate was in comparison to Mako and Texas Cordia.
Yeah, if you can provide that later, I would be interesting to see. Again, I'm just reacting to, if you go line item by line item, some of them, they have pretty big differences. In the end, one is cheaper than the other, but even then, it just seems a little
I'm gonna
Weird.
support that on number 89. There's a huge difference. You're talking about 200,000 compared to $1 million. So is that a typo from the other company, or And again, this is a City of Brownsville project, but it is. I mean, that's 500%.
Yeah, there is an $800,000 difference for dewatering for sanitary sewers.
Yeah.
Again, this is that contractor's pricing. There might have been other items where they were under as well, so it's just their techniques for estimating. So in the event they don't do dewatering in any of these trenches, then it should not be built. Dewatering is only for the contractor to go out there. If there's a high water table, they'll dewater the area, bring down the water table to create a better stable trench. So if it is not used, then they don't bill it. But they have to dewater to lower the water table in some.
Yeah, maybe you can provide the engineering estimates later. Not a huge thing. I support the project, of course. Again, just reacting to some of those
Okay.
item differences.
I do want to say that, this is something that was reviewed. I looked at just the project. We are replacing water line that is in various different sections, as well as force main. There's an 8-inch force main that I'm looking on here that was built in 1981 that would remain in place. We have a water line that's being extended on the corner of Morrison and Old 77. We have a section of PVC that's going to remain in service, and those were built between 1995 through 1997. And I also have here some existing 8-inch force main that will be extended to receive to manhole lift station 64. So that whole area should improve the utilities in that there, and these are funds that are being used from ratepayer funds. These are not reimbursed from anything. We'll try and look, I've asked staff at the grants department to see, since this is a shovel-ready, ready-to-go project, to see if there's any eligible projects, if we have any reimbursements coming from other funding sources to help offset some of these costs, but these are something that is being absorbed by our ratepayers.
Is that any, does anybody else have any questions
Yeah.
or thoughts? No? Okay, so I guess you can read the proposed action item?
Yeah. So BPUB staff recommends approval to reimburse the city of Brownsville for utility improvements as part of the street paving and drainage improvements of our old Highway 77 CIP 2022-07 for an amount not to exceed of $5,189,835.50.
So we reimburse the city?
That's correct. So the invoices come in through the city, and then we approve them, and then at the end, we'll reimburse the city as they invoice us. But the city pays the contractor directly. We reimburse the city.
Oh, so the contractor's already been paid. Just use the city's money. Done. Kidding. Okay, so the action item has been read. Do I hear a maybe motion?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve.
Second that.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Say-
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
The ayes have it. Okay, and thank you for that, for checking in. I mean, it's always good to jump into the details. So, item number 3, staff reports and presentations to the board. Start with Mike.
Yeah, we got the financial report first. So, good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting the financial performance report as of July 31, 2024. I'll be focusing the presentation on the next 3 slides. So here we've got the executive summary. Again, focuses on 7 categories. On the flow of funds, PUB did generate $14.95 million to replenish the improvement fund. Our debt service coverage ratio year-to-date was at 2.79 times, which is well above the 1.25 times minimum. So we're doing good in this area. The FPEC, the fuel purchase and energy charge, has generated an over-recovery of $11.94 million as of July 31st. This will be used to offset future market uncertainty. I will mention that because of the balance that we currently have, the Risk Oversight Committee did authorize a 20% reduction for the month of August and another additional 20% reduction in the month of September. So the current rate as of September is at 5.019 cents per 1,000 kWh. So the average utility bill for the 1,000 residential kWh user went down from $139.48 down to $111.26. So significant savings to our customers.
Can I ask a question? I wonder if the FPEC, if this red, yellow, green, if it actually should go to yellow, green again, yellow and red again, because like too high of an over recovery would be bad, right?
Well, not necessarily. There's some utilities, they're prudent utility practices to have at least 90 days worth of production costs set aside, just in case we have an extraordinary event, and those ERCOT bills need to be paid immediately, right? And so that reserve, a 90-day reserve, would serve to pay upfront those costs before we even collect it from the customers.
So there's some strategy things here that I think have to be discussed and closed and shouldn't be discussed here, but we have had a whole discussion about this, and it's pretty cool, but that was all in closed, so I'd say let's hold. Can we hold that for closed? Okay.
Correct. It's one of the items, I believe, on the item 2 in closed session.
Okay, just let's keep that strategy for closed then. Thank you. Sorry, John.
Okay. So continuing here, we've got as far as the COB cash transfer, we did see some increase revenues, and so the adjusted gross revenues increased, resulting in an increase to the city transfer of about $1.28 million year-to-date. So again, great news for the city. We're doing great in this area. On the expense side, personal expenses are in line with budget, while the non-personal expenses did come in about $6.87 million lower than budget, and primarily due to some timing issues and savings as well. The BPUB's average bill for July was higher than the average MOU bill, but lower than the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh users, so we were doing average. But as I just mentioned, the rate did go down for August and September, and so we should be shifting to good in the upcoming months. We are still lagging behind on our CIP spending, having spent only $29.19 million year-to-date, which represents 31.83% of the fiscal year 24 approved plan. Back in August, staff did provide those obstacles that we were facing. All key financial metrics are currently in compliance, so we're doing good there as well. Here we've got a condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is following generally accepted accounting principles. We are comparing year-to-date through July and this to the same period last year. So operating revenues for fiscal year 24 were at $192,974,000. This represented about $382,000 lower than last year's. Now, we did see an increase in year-to-date sales of about $9 million. What brought this difference down was the use of $9.4 million in the rate stabilization fund that was approved by the board to pay down those production costs for the customers back in November and December. We back out operating expenses, $167,197,000. These were approximately $6.1 million above prior years. The big difference here being the increase in personnel costs due to the compensation study, and we're also seeing an increase of about $2 million in depreciation expense. And so we arrive at operating income line 3 at $25,776,000. We back out the net non-operating expenses of $12,540,000, and we arrive at line 5, income before capital contributions of $13,236,000. We do see a huge difference here in the non-operating expenses compared to last year at about $34 million. And the majority of that, of course, was the Tenasca Equity Fund distribution that occurred back in November of 2023. We add in capital contributions, $8,948,000. And we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $22,184,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with net position at the end of the period of $474,793,000. Here we've got a condensed summary of revenues and expenses based on the flow of funds. This is in accordance with the bond ordinance. We are comparing year-to-date actuals through July with our year-to-date budget. So operating revenues of $193,774,000 were about $4.6 million under budget. This particular line item does include both base revenues and fuel revenues. So we did see an increase in our sales to date, about $9 million. But then I'm sorry, wrong page. So we did see an increase of about $7.2 million, while the fuel and the out-system sales decreased about $11.8 million. So that accounts for the decrease of about 4.6. Other revenues of $22,308,000 were $4.4 million above budget. A lot of this was some additional ancillary sales and some additional interest earnings as compared to the prior year. We arrive at line 3 gross revenues, $216,083,000. We back out fuel and SRWA expenses of $71,992,000, and we arrive at the adjusted gross revenues of $144,090,000. This is the basis for the city's 10% calculation, so the city is entitled to $14,409,000. We back out other requirements for O&M, non-operating debt service of $101,322,000, and we also back out the COB usage of about $5.2 million, and we arrive at a balance available after requirements of $37,616,000. We then back out the transfer to the COB, to the City of Brownsville net of the usage of $9,257,000, and we arrive at line 9, balance available for transfers out of $28,359,000. This $28 million was used to fund $13,408,000 of budgeted CIP, and the remaining balance of $14,950,000 flowed to replenish the improvement fund. That concludes the financial presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? No, I think we're all
Thank
set.
you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Renee talk about how it's rained. Not enough, but some.
Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the board. Rene Mariscal, Division Manager. I'll provide a drought update. So the last formal publication is the U.S. combined ownership at Amistad and Falcon as of August 31st is at 18.7%. So we're still at stage 2, and that's down from 23.9% last year at this time, just to give you an indication there. Previous readings, you'll see that in August we were declining up until now. We're starting to see that, at least for the recent rain, as we're seeing things improve. As of this morning, unofficial, the level's about 20.1% this morning. So we'll see it. We'll see the next reporting go up just slightly. But as our general manager indicated, this is still, reservoir levels continue to be low, extremely low. So we definitely are keeping an eye on that.
Where do you, sorry, quick question. Where do you monitor that?
Reservoir levels, that's the IBWC records that, monitors the levels when they provide that publication.
And is it an average number? Because I think I've taken a look before. It's like there's other
you're looking
numbers there. It's not like this one that you.
No, you're looking at both U.S. and Mexico combined. So, yes, you have to do. You have to do that calculation.
Okay.
And I can provide you with that calculation.
Yeah.
They
Should be straightforward.
update it every hour, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was like, somewhere that it was already provided, processed, I guess.
Yeah, but they do provide this update weekly. I mean, they send us the formal publication on a weekly basis. But we are able to see it literally on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So just as an example, Falcon is at 12.5% today, and last week it was at about 11.5%. So there's been a slight increase. At the end of August, Falcon was at about 10.5%. So definitely seeing some water in there. Amistad today is at 26.6. Last week was about 25%. So we're seeing a small increase. That's all I have. Any questions?
Please keep the rain coming.
Keep the rain dances going.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Renee.
Dr. Holman, if I may add just something, if you haven't had a chance, right before the meeting, we received the weekly updates, and you should all have received the weekly report just like I receive it from the IBWC. I also provided you some links in there, which is part of the numbers that you see that are different, that you see different. That's the whole reservoir conservation amount that's inside, and the calculation. At the next board meeting, if you all choose, we can give you how percentages wise are, so that way we can show you the calculation if you all like, or I can send you all an email. Your choice.
Yeah, email is fine.
I'll send an email. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the staff reports. Thank you all. Okay, next item is consideration and possible action of the Brownsville Public Utility Board fiscal year 2025 proposed O&M and capital budgets.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is George Angel. I'm the finance manager here at PUB, and I'll be presenting the item for consideration and possible action on the Brownsville Public Utilities Board fiscal year 2025 proposed O&M and capital budgets. During the week of August 19th, briefings were held with the individual board members to review the draft O&M and capital budgets. The proposed O&M budget totals $276,316,863 and provides a debt service coverage ratio of 2.54 times on a combined basis, and individual ratios of electric, water, and wastewater of 2.54 times, 2.74 times, and 2.34 times debt service coverage, respectively. The proposed capital improvement spending plan total is $76,099,290, and is supported with improvement funds of $44 million, $11.44 million of prior year surplus, $1.43 million in Resaca fee CIP funding, $3.98 million in impact fees, and $0.90 million in line extension fees, and $14.34 million in grants. There is a presentation, and that's the presentation that was made during the briefings with you all. If you all want me to go ahead and go through that again, or I can read the recommended action if you all don't have any questions. It's up to you all.
Any questions? I guess I have one just for Mark, really, to single you out again. How do you feel about this year's budget? And yeah, now that we started, haven't gotten deep into it, but started some of this program management type effort, how do we feel about the numbers we're putting forward?
Are you referring to the capital budget?
Yes.
So I think we've done a number of improvements in budgeting this year, understanding better how the numbers are submitted. So I think we comfortably, this year, we're going to report something like about 32% CIP completion. I
Correct.
think a year from now, we should be probably somewhere in the 70 to 75% range. And we're going to be implementing a major new software to help us track all of these projects. That's ongoing right now and will be in place by next year. And interfaces with our work order system as well as our financial system and our GIS system.
Sounds great. I know this is a work in progress, but it's good to see that we're planning on moving forward. So great, thank you. So, another question.
Yes, so I've seen it, and I know each of us has seen it, but for the public who would like to take a look at this, can you state where it is found?
Well, right now, it's not public anywhere, but once it's approved, we can go ahead and put it on our website, and we can have that on there. Or if you want, for the public who's maybe watching right now or wants to watch it later, I can always do the presentation now if you want me to as well.
Well, if the public wants to see it, they can look at the Finance Committee.
Correct,
Didn't
yes.
we already?
Yeah, because
so
I did present it there as
It's been
well.
done in public, but it'll also be on our website, and maybe a nice prominent link to it in case anybody wants to see it would be useful.
Correct.
If we approve it.
If
I'm
you approve it, correct,
assuming.
yes.
But, okay.
Okay. The other thing I would like to add before there's a vote on this is that we are going to be discussing the Resaca fee in a upcoming line item here. What is it, number 6? So there's a possibility that we can vote on this and then come back and amend in a month or two, depending on what.
On what's decided, correct.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to, put an asterisk there.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. So then I'll go ahead and read the recommended action. BPUB staff recommends approval of the BPUB fiscal year 2025 proposed O&M and CIP budgets.
I move to approve.
I second the motion.
I just want to emphasize, if you guys aren't that excited, we could go and meet again in a week. Okay. Not that that should color anybody's vote here. Okay, so all in favor, please do say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is consideration and possible action of a resolution authorizing Brownsville Public Utility Board application submission to the United States Bureau of Reclamation Drought Response Program grant for the development of the Robindale Wastewater Treatment Plant Indirect Potable Reuse System. And just a comment, this is pretty cool because it's discussing both really cool cutting-edge stuff we're doing, and then also just kind of showing some of the ways we go to federal funding sources to kind of minimize the burden on our ratepayers. Sorry, go on, Rick.
So yes, so again, members of the board, Ricky Pineda, Water Wastewater Project Development Manager. Are there any questions on this project?
Would you like to just give the public an overview of what it is? I think it's kind of cool.
Sure, yeah, so We have two wastewater plants, and specifically for this project, the plan is to take the effluent from the Robindale plant, which is treated through traditional methods. The effluent is it's a disinfected using UV, which it does not kill the microorganism, the bacteria, it sterilizes them so that they don't multiply. So we treat the water to a point where it's safe to be discharged into the environment to continue the water cycle. So instead of just discharging it into the environment, losing that water, the purpose of this is to recapture it, and through Garver's plan is to through indirect treatment. So we would capture it, put it in a resaca or a body of water, which what we have here are resacas, and then from there we would take it in and treat it on water plant number 2. Water plant 2 uses traditional methods. We coagulate the solids and then treat with chlorine on this plant. So the purpose of this is to augment or supplement our current water, is not to replace surface water, the Rio Grande, or the water wells. It's to supplement.
And can you give us an idea of the amount? I imagine that this is savings, or is this from the water perspective?
So Robindale plant discharges about 8 million gallons a day, which is about 25 acre feet. So that's what we would be capturing from the wastewater plant. So it's essentially free water, recycled water.
And now this is an approval not to build the plant, but just to go for a grant to develop this idea.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, we're applying for a grant to be able to, phase 1 entails, it's project administration, the consultant is going to develop a treatment evaluation, discharge permitting with TCEQ, and also assist our grants department with funding support.
Okay.
I have a question on the qualification under the disadvantaged category. What are the requirements to qualify under that
Sure.
program?
Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Conrad. I am a grants coordinator here at the utility. And just to speak on that, the USBR, they provide a resource called the Climate Economic Justice Screening Tool, which allows us to get a scope of which communities fall within the disadvantaged community criteria, and the city of Brownsville as well as Cameron County falls within that criteria. So we are a disadvantaged community, which does allow us for a 95% federal grant to a 5% matching requirement for the proposed project.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any other?
I move to approve.
Second.
Let me read the recommendation.
okay.
Yes. So
Sorry.
BPB staff recommends approval to submit the grant application to the United States Bureau of Reclamation Drought Response Program grant, and if selected for a grant, to authorize the general manager and CEO to accept the grant, endorse and commit matching funds, and enter into an agreement with the USBR for purposes of carrying out the project.
I move to approve.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next item is the presentation, discussion, and possible action on Resaca operations and the Resaca fee, including an update on the USACE Ecosystem Restoration Project. And we're going to kick it off with Paul.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Paul Gonzalez. I'm the General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer. And surprise, surprise, I'm here again. This was a presentation at the Finance Committee, and Mr. Rene Mariscal, he has my back today, so he's going to be here if there are any questions that go beyond my ken in this. This was presented to the Facilities Program Committee last Wednesday, and included an update on the CORES project and some other information. This Resaca Ecosystem Restoration Project is one in which there's a leveraging of federal funds at 65% and locally sponsored funds at 35%. There's going to also be a second part to this presentation by Mr. Dombrowski on broader issues with the Resaca program. And so you know that to the extent there may be legal issues that come up and questions that would be appropriate for executive session, this item's also been tagged for a closed session discussion if that's required before any decisions are made. So we're going to start. This is the beautiful long name for this core project, right? The Resaca is in the vicinity of the City of Brownsville, Texas Ecosystem Restoration Project. And the map on the right presents sort of this overview. And the feasibility study was completed in 2018. It touches on segments of Resaca de la Guerra and Resaca del Rancho Viejo. De la Guerra is the southern one in blue. The Rancho Viejo is the one to the north. It's meant to restore about 845 acres of aquatic and riparian habitat over 16 phases or contracts. And what you may notice on the map is that it's not all contiguous. You know, there are different places where the Corps thought it was feasible to, potentially feasible to restore habitat. So that's in part what those little numbers on the map show and the areas of red. So the initial cost estimates have been updated because with time, it just went up. This is a slide showing that the total costs are over $311 million. 35% would be the non-federal sponsor share. The non-federal sponsors, the City of Brownsville, but BPUB's been working very closely in coordinating these efforts. This involves a 75-year commitment. When they're all done with the restoration, there's a 75-year commitment to maintain those improvements as a condition to the federal funding. This is a detail of the feasibility study area that we're talking about in contract one, because that's the stage we're at. There's 16 phases, but we're talking about contract one. There's the airport on the upper right of the map, and what we're specifically looking at are segments 72, 93, and 94. So that means in these panels, there are panels 6, 5, and 4, and we'll go from generally in that order just to see what's happening. One thing to note on this is, again, it's not the entirety, right? There are gaps between the red areas, right? So where the Corps thought something was feasible for restoration, we're going to dig into what that might look like. This is from panel 6. That area in the middle, the circle, is a city park, right? This is a city park, and all of that property that's shaded in green is for riparian vegetation, as the key indicates. There's also going to be some shoreline sculpting. It's a very small line, and emergent vegetation, that's that yellow line, that would be worked on. There's no dredging or no excavation contemplated here because it's already an existing Resaca it's got water. So that's what we see on this. Also note that it's not affecting anybody where they've already built out stuff, you know, on the other bank. It's where there was this opportunity along the city's property that they're developing. So that's from panel 6. Panel 5, the next one shows segment 93. You see the number there in the middle, near the middle, and then 94 towards the right. This is showing a different type of work that's being done. The excavation is going to be done. This is largely a dried area, and they're going to place emergent vegetation and do some shoreline sculpting in addition to that excavation that will restore some water flow. At the top of the key, you'll just notice that there's a add adjustable weir to existing overflow box. So there are two places where they're doing some engineering work. The pipe to bring in the water, and some places right about, I think this is it. And again, if I say something terrible, Renee will throw a shoe or something at me. So this is the type of work that is on segment 94. It continues to this roadway, and then it does not continue until in a future phase there are these other places where it's only going to be riparian vegetation that they're going to be working on. So this helps picture the quality and type of work that the Corps is contemplating. Contract 1, those three segments, 72, 93, and 94, are part of Contract 1. Back in 2021, there was a project management plan, or PMP, that was for the design that was executed, and a design agreement. And this is part of their pre-construction engineering and design work. And these are the revised numbers that reflect this is what it costs to do the design work, and it's already been paid. Notably here, just to give you a taste of what these agreements sort of look like, this is the design contract. I actually put it in reverse chronological order, but this was sort of helpful in describing how this project considers this restoration of the stepping stone areas, right? And it describes the measures to remove and perpetually manage non-native and invasive species, remove sediment from the resacas, and excavating to restore aquatic habitat, etc. That's all related to the project, describing how those 800 plus acres are divided among about 625 acres of terrestrial riparian habitat restoration and about 220 acres of aquatic habitat restoration. This agreement is between the Corps and the City of Brownsville as the non-federal sponsor, represented by the mayor. Notices go to the city manager, and Mayor Mendez signed on March 21, 2021, but it's not dated till when the last person signed, which is the Corps. The PMP, because they love these acronyms, Project Management Plan. This was integral and necessary to get the design work done. It again sort of says this is the task to get the first set of plans, and it's going to be described as Contract 1, these three segments we talked about. The non-federal sponsor is the City of Brownsville, and this is to complete any additional planning and studies and all detailed technical studies design needed to begin construction, right? So this is what this was meant to do. And most importantly is this next paragraph. This phase is conducted under the design agreement. It's executed upon approval of the PMP and the review plan, and remains in effect until execution of a project partnership plan, sometimes called a PPA. Oh, there it is. And it is during the PED phase that the project partnership agreement is developed, which outlines the sponsors and Corps' responsibilities for project construction and operation and maintenance after construction is complete. And it's run by, the Corps has a project manager who oversees how things are done and prepares and negotiates the PPA for project construction. And they'll work with us and update folks as it is developed. And this, again, was dated back to February 2021 as a precondition to the design agreement. So what are the construction cost estimates for that we've now reached? Design has been done. These are the numbers, just over $3 million. The 35% non-federal share is just over $1 million. They estimate about 14 months for construction from the time the project partnership agreement is executed. It's implemented. The reason they're doing it, right? The Corps is doing it. They get the contractors necessary to do the different types of work, whether it's excavation, the vegetation management and such. But the property acquisition is provided by the local sponsor. These estimates are dating back to 2023, and they periodically revise the estimates as we move forward. This has been a significant year for this project in that we had federal funding approved, a New Start designation back in March. Using community project funds, this project became a New Start project, something that gets onto the president's budget as a recurring item, subject to federal funding, right? Further federal funding. So to the Corps, this was a big deal. To us, it was a big deal in that it signals that this project is moving forward. So moving forward, we get to, these are pictures from segment 93. This is the Montezuma cypress tree. This is a historic bridge, as I understand it. I have yet to visit. This is the Corps in August provided to the city and to us a partnership agreement draft, and it's under review for potential execution, for negotiation. What happens next is a new PMP, and the Corps requests the non-federal sponsorship share of what's been estimated, that over $1 million for contract one. Real estate acquisition has to be confirmed, and then they resume, the project manager, that's the Corps, resumes those meetings, and construction begins, that 14-month process. Are there any questions that Mr. Mariscal or I can answer on this update for the Corps project?
So when this kicks off, BPUB will not be responsible for any of the construction, or will not be the party that is doing the construction or the contracting or anything else.
Right.
And the city.
The Corps of Engineers is handling the construction phase.
Right.
We were involved, all of the local participants are involved with that process. There are regular meetings, and Mr. Mariscal may have some additional experience to share on that.
No, that's absolutely correct. The question was, will the construction move forward? I mean, that'll be the Corps leading that effort with guidance from the project development team.
Okay, so really PUB's role in this will be very minor when it kicks off. That's correct. Outside of the project development team meetings, where we're all looking at the schedule, and it'll be limited to that. Okay.
Correct. So just to add to that, this is 16 phases is how they're looking at it. So at some point during construction, they'll be looking at phase 2 design, right? So that as construction is happening on contract 1, some design work can happen on contract 2, so that eventually contract 2, as it's being constructed, they're designing contract 3. That's how I understand they typically like to work, because they're mobilizing and they're getting work done.
And will we be involved in the design phase? And I would imagine the city will be involved in the design phase of any following
Correct.
contracts.
Everything that we saw in this slide presentation is what would happen for each contract that's envisioned for consideration by the city.
From the federal funds that you mentioned, the New Start, those would only apply to the 65%, not to the 35%?
Correct.
When you negotiate these things, do you have any say in terms of when they're going to start and progress and?
So let me add two components, because what the local sponsor is providing is the local portion, a commitment of funds, right? And then the perpetual, that 75-year care and maintenance to maintain that investment of public funds, because it's public funds on the local side, it's public funds on the federal side, right, for that period. We've talked to the Corps about trying to minimize what it would take to minimize the local share. You heard about in another program with the Bureau of Reclamation, where there was a 5% portion, I think, and that's a legislative fix that with the city we can coordinate and try to seek at the appropriate time. For this contract 1, it's at 35%. And we've also been talking to the Corps about the interests in land. Typically, they like seeing fee simple, and that's by policy, but they've shown some flexibility. So we've been in discussions with them about what lesser interest might be obtained. Why is this relevant? Because before you can start talking about construction, they need to know they have the land interests in place. So that's a timing issue. The extent to which the project manager otherwise coordinates with local entities. Mr. Mariscal, do you have anything else to add?
All that would begin after the execution of the PPA. So,
I have one other question. So land acquisition, I mean, why do we have to buy land? I mean, because when you buy land, it seems like, okay, you're going to buy like Resaca frontage land, you're buying into the Resaca, and then what title? The title is going to be held in what name? Is it PUB's buying is PUB buying the land, or is the project buying the land?
Well, the city, typically it's envisioned that the non-federal sponsor obtains the interest in land. So
And
the
that's
city of Brownsville.
So the city will own the
Right.
land.
Right. We've been talking about lesser interests in land, such as conservation easements, dredging, and flowage easements, because we're talking about a little bit of surface, and we're talking about what's needed to restore flow in a dry Resaca, right?
Okay.
So
And do you know already how much land you're going to have to secure?
that's all included in each of the feasibility study. That's why we sort of drilled down into, that's where the 800 plus acres sort of comes from. You look at as your maximum, and then we drill into this contract and the design of this particular contract in order to determine, how many landowners you have, what are the interests. For instance, the park is city-owned park, so that's already held. That doesn't need to be obtained from someone else, and that's part of the process.
The Corps has an extensive write-up of every single piece of property, every single, part of the Resaca, and what they plan on doing for each portion. Marilyn, I believe you have that link. If not, we could send it out. But they have that available online for the public to see.
I will be happy to provide you the Army Corps of Engineer link. Everything that has been done on this project is publicly available through the Army Corps of Engineers. I do have a copy of the feasibility study that was completed in 2018, and it's a feasibility study. That's what identifies. And so the PPA, which is the partnership agreement, is what's being negotiated, and that's what we need to understand what we're allowed and not allowed to do. So that's where we're at right now. I do have a copy of that, ecosystem project. It's right here. This is the PPA. This is, I'm sorry, not the PPA. This is the interim ecosystem restoration feasibility study that includes what Dr. Holman just mentions of the potential lands on there.
Has the information that is being presented to us today on this project, has that been presented to City Commission?
Not by us. I don't know what they've briefed the, Mr. Mariscal, have you?
We did have an executive session, a presentation, an executive session. I don't recall the date, but we did have one where we provided this information.
When was that?
He just said he didn't recall the date. But if you could let us know later,
Like
that
in
would be
a
nice.
year ago, a month ago, more or
Probably
less?
a year ago.
Probably
About a year ago in October, I went back looking for that date, and it was sometime in October, and it was right before when we provided the information.
So was
in-
City Commission notified that, the money was appropriated for this project?
Well, let me clarify. Obviously, we've had some updates since then. So what we provided at that time was just, I think we talked about the real estate as well, but not, at that point, we still didn't have this New Start designation just yet, or the funding to.
So City Commission has not been kept informed of what is happening?
Now let's be careful
that-
here. Let's be careful. That is not, I would not recommend attacking staff on this. It is worth asking. Have you guys thought about presenting again to the City Commission? And would that be something that the City Commission would be amenable to?
If I may, I initially answered no because that was before my time, and that's why he's here. So we've kept city staff informed of each step of the way. Certainly, this is part of the collaboration with, say, the city attorney's office and ourselves. We certainly do keep folks abreast. One of Mr. Mariscal's contacts in the course of this project, it's not a new project, it's been around for a while, has been the Assistant City Manager, Mr. Garcia? Mr. Garcia, among others. So there has been communication with city staff. It may be time for a commission briefing.
You guys meet with city staff, what, once every 2 weeks or so? Is that
When-
a right estimate?
When the project development team was moving forward, there was, I think it was at least biweekly meetings during the design phase. Once the design, reached a certain point, and obviously there was no funding for a little while, so the Corps discontinued their meetings at that point.
My other question here is, if this project is an agreement between the Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Brownsville, why are we involved?
I think we're going to hold that for closed. Thank you.
Any of these agreements, is PUB a signatory to any of the agreements mentioned in the presentation?
Not on these agreements. I don't know if we're signatory on any of this other agreements, so I'll ask
Just
Mr.
the ones in the
Mariscal.
presentation? That's the ones that you were talking about?
Correct.
Right, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
There was no, this is just the first part of two-part presentation on the General Resaca's programs. And there was no specific, this was an update, strictly speaking, on the core project, on this part. Mr. Dombrowski will have the next part.
Okay, and that'll be enclosed?
No,
that'll be here?
it's, I believe, right here.
Going great.
On the
Okay.
Resaca fees and ongoing operations. Thank you.
So good evening, Mark Dombrowski, the Chief Operating Officer. So there are other things going on when we talk about Resaca operations. So some of the things we have going is our normal dredging operations. And so the basic purpose of that is to mitigate flooding and to increase storage capacity where we store water in the Resacas. We also have the Restore project, which is a TCEQ funded project, and its primary purpose is to mitigate flooding. We have the Army Corps of Engineers, which you discussed there. And finally, we have the Water Smart, which is a grant that you approved this evening, looking at, or excuse me, this is a separate one. This is a grant that we've applied for Resaca Delegada over near Ortiz Elementary, which is to improve the ecosystem there. And right now, we're working on a 60% design with Half and Associates. That 60% design is required to complete the application, and that's going on right now. And when we talk about Resaca, we're really talking, we have about 22 full-time authorized positions. I believe we have approximately 3 vacancies in that area right now. But you can see the positions here and the types of work they do by their titles. These report to Renee, who spoke earlier. The Resaca fee, when it was originally assessed in 22, it was $4.50 for each water account within the city of Brownsville. It increased to $6.25 in 23. Last year, we went to the City Commission and requested that they hold the fee at $6.25 until we completed a cost of service study, which they agreed to do, and that's where it sits at $6.25. That cost of service study was going to take into account these various projects from the Corps of Engineers and other ongoing operations. And so we have not yet completed that cost of service study, and it remains at $6.25. Bit of a history, you can see that we've been doing dredging since at least 2012. In 2022 is when the Resaca fee was initiated. Prior to 2022, funding for the dredging was done through the water utility. We initiated those rates in June of 22. And you can see that the Restore grant began also working in 22. Here's the history of both the revenues and the expenses. And you'll see that little blue arrow. At the end of July, we have $6.15 million in our Resaca fund balance. So if you take that $6.15 million, you estimate the amount of revenue we'll collect between August and the end of the fiscal year, less the general fund transfer. It's about $620,000 or $619,000. We'll have another $105,000 expenses, so they'll add $514,000 to that fund balance, leaving us an estimated fee balance at the end of the year of about $6.67 million. And going in the next year, you see that $6.67 million with the additional fees that we expect to collect at $6.25. Gives us a total balance estimated for 25 of about $10.5 million. We'll have the O&M expenses. We'll have our 35% share of Contract 1, which you just heard about. That's a little over $1 million. And then to continue dredging and support these operations, we need to make a significant investment in some of our capital equipment for there, the dewatering, the dredgers, the vehicles we use. So that's about $5.9 million. So that would give us a year-end balance of approximately $1.1 million. So right now, as you've heard, so our sort of current strategic path is to maintain those capabilities with Rizaka. That means making those capital investment, continuing the ongoing dredging operations, completing the restore project. So this is a 9-year project. We're in year 2, so year 25 will be year 3. We'll fund our current 35% matching share of contract 1, about $1.09 million. And we'll begin working on scoping for contract 2. We'll complete the 60% design for the WaterSmart grant, and then we'll maintain that fee at $6.25 until such time we can do a cost of service study and bring that back before both the board and the commission. We've heard that some of the board members want to consider other alternatives, and so really this is your opportunity to instruct us to do that. We've had board direction to do that current strategic path, so we'll take your directions. We can come back to you with alternatives that we can think of, or at board direction, what you want us to consider, and we'll bring you back some of those alternatives and some of those paths that you might consider. That is the end of
I
the
have a
presentation.
Are you finished with the
Yes, I am.
Okay. Going back to, and I just knew, so I don't have the benefit of what's happened in the last few years, but if you go back to, I think, 107. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
I just want to understand, because it just seems like, and I don't know if it makes sense that it was planned this way, it's been done intentionally. It's like capital expenditures since 2018 have been really minimal, right? I mean, is that by design, or is that?
Yes, so, like you've seen some of the dredgers and our Rizakas, so those are large pieces of equipment. Most of the capital expenses are minor vehicles, smaller pieces of equipment, but that equipment is aging, and in order for us to meet our obligations to continue the dredging as we have planned in that current strategic path, is the replacement of a lot of that major equipment.
Right. It seems like, we're collecting some money here, but like O&M personnel have been about $550,000, which is a lot less than what we're collecting. And so I just want to understand like the efficiency of that, because we collect the fees so that the work can be done, but we're spending, it seems like, I don't know, 50%, 40%. I don't know if that's right or not.
Well, we're collecting the fees.
So we started collecting the fee as when the Corps of Engineers work was anticipated, and that we knew that we would have some matching fund was to begin collecting that.
Okay.
And to have that in the fund so that when the contract was signed, we'd have those funds available. And the same continues on, since there's 14 contracts, is to collect in advance of those contracts so we have those funds available once the contract gets executed.
Okay.
On the capital expenditures before, were those from Rizaka fees, or was that?
So up until '22, all the funding for our Rizaka operations were from water rates. And in '22, they did a cost of service study and brought that before the board and the commission, and those Rizaka fees were approved, and all of those revenues now pay for the expenses that we've discussed here.
I think one of the goals was to make this more transparent. Hey, if we're doing this Rizaka work, here's what it's costing the city, ratepayers, for us to do it, which I think is a good idea. I think, this is, thank you for this.
Okay.
It gives us a chance to incorporate all the feedback we've heard. And I'm sure at the city, you guys have heard quite a bit of it, and, think about a course correction.
I have a question. When is the revised cost of study service report going to be done?
On the water rates? So right now, the water rates, I think we're in year 4 of the 5-year. Is that correct?
Correct. The last rate increase is in 2026.
2026. So we would imagine after 2026, what is included in Rosaca's will be a lot of what both the board as well as the city commission directs to be done.
So if this board decided to adopt if this board decided to stick with the charter language
Well,
in
no,
a
no,
more,
let's hold that for closed. Let's hold that for closed.
there's a lot of things that
Right, but
could
I
be said
think we
in
should
open
talk
session.
about that at closed, and then we can repeat stuff in open after we've vetted it.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As you guys have heard, we have a lot to discuss in closed. And I think now I have to read the items, right? Okay, so we are looking to recess to closed, and we're going to meet with the board's legal counsel for advice about contemplated impending court and administrative litigation on matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflicts with Chapter 551, Section 551.071, including but not limited to the following: reports of local and special counsel, legal issues related to BTX lit fiber project, Resaca operations, and the Resaca fee, including an update on the USACE ecosystem restoration project, and report to the City Commission under Article 6.4. Item number 2, presentation and discussion and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power, generation, and fuel, and their impact upon the fuel purchase, energy, and marketing charge. Number 3, potential revisions and update to communications and marketing strategy for retail electric service, Section 551.086. I will entertain motions to move into
Motion to move into closed session.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll move into closed.
What? No, the pizza. What happened? For what?
We're just going to wait for a few more people. Sorry. Actually, many more people. We're waiting for one. Okay, it is 8:16 and we are back from closed. We're going to consider any possible action items discussed in closed meeting, and Juan, would you read the action item?
Yes, the only action item is item 1C from closed.
I'm sorry, you're going to get yelled at for not speaking in the microphone.
Oh, yeah. 1C, the Resaca operations and the Resaca fee, including update on USACE ecosystem restoration project. I believe the proposed motion would be, as discussed in executive, for BPUB staff to discuss and work with the city on a plan of action regarding continuation of Resaca operations and the Resaca fee, and to report back to the board.
Sounds good.
I move to approve.
Move to approve. Or any questions or?
Yeah, so you said for management to work on continuation of operations and fee?
For BPUB staff to discuss and work with the city on a plan of action regarding continuation of Resaca operations and the Resaca fee, and to report back to the board.
I would say regarding the future plan for,
Okay.
future plan for operations and Resaca fee.
So it would be to move that BPUB staff discuss and work with the city on a plan of action regarding the future of Resaca operations and the Resaca fee, and to report back to the board.
Yes, thank you. I move to approve. Sorry, I move to.
Oh,
second that.
anybody want to make a motion? We got to move
Yes.
motion from Dr. Zamora.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. And, this is kind of the end of the meeting, so we're going to do consideration and action on future agenda items. Anybody? If nobody has,
We should have a Resaca item on the next agenda.
we'd like a Resaca item on the next agenda.
Resaca fee item.
Resaca fee item. Hopefully, we'll have guidance by then. And we will act on that. So I am now willing to hear any motions for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's
night,
closed.
everybody.